The night air over Oak Island carried the heavy scent of wet soil and salt from the restless sea. Floodlights cast long, trembling shadows across the excavation pit where the earth had been carved deeper than ever before. Engines hummed, metal groaned. Every eye on the crew was locked in one place, the dark hole that seemed to breathe beneath the machines. Rick Lagina stood at the edge, boots caked in mud, his face lined with exhaustion and hope. For years he had followed whispers, stories of treasure, of secrets buried by time itself. But tonight, something was different. The equipment wasn't lying. The scanners were showing signals no one could explain. Beside him, Emma Culligan leaned over a monitor, her brow furrowed. Dr. Ian Spooner stood behind her, adjusting his glasses, his expression tight with unease. The radar lines danced across the screen, flickering like nervous heartbeats. "Rick," Emma murmured, "this reading, it's not showing metal." Rick looked at her sharply. "Then what is it?" She hesitated, then whispered, "It's showing energy." The word hung in the air like thunder. Dr. Spooner stepped closer, glancing at the readings. "That's not supposed to happen," he said quietly. "Either it's ancient or far ahead of us, but either way, it doesn't belong here." The excavator's engine roared again, chewing deeper into the mud. Dirt spilled over the sides of the pit, and the ground trembled under their boots. The only sounds were the rhythmic growl of the machine and the electronic pulse from their equipment. Then it happened. A faint light began to shimmer beneath the soil. Not the flash of gold or silver, but a steady, soft blue glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Emma's eyes widened. "Stop!" she shouted. The machines fell silent. Everyone froze. Rick gripped his flashlight, stepping closer to the edge. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing something smooth and metallic buried under the mud, glowing faintly even through the dirt. Its surface reflected the light like water. Dr. Spooner raised his thermal scanner. The screen numbers climbed rapidly. His voice shook as he said, "Rick, this thing's not cold. It's heating up." Rick frowned. "That's impossible. It's been buried for centuries." Emma knelt beside the pit, brushing the dirt away with her gloves. Symbols emerged, strange curves and patterns carved into the metal, pulsing softly with that same blue light. The glow flickered when her hand passed over it, as if the object was responding. To her touch, a subtle vibration spread through the ground, soft at first, then unmistakable. Even the puddles nearby began to ripple. Someone from the camera crew whispered, "It feels like the ground's breathing." Rick didn't respond. He just stared, his voice barely audible. "We found it." Silence. The kind of silence that only comes before something big. Emma rose slowly, her face pale in the glow. "Rick," she said, "whatever this is, it's not just a relic." Rick nodded, still watching the light pulse. "I know. It's something else." The vibration grew stronger. Small stones shifted, and a deep, humming tone filled the air, low, steady, almost musical. Dr. Spooner's instruments flickered wildly, the readings jumping off the charts. "It's reacting. It knows we're here." Rick turned to his team. "Back away," he ordered. Slowly. They moved just as a sharp crack split the air, the ground breaking like a shell. A beam of brilliant blue light shot upward, flooding the site in an otherworldly glow. The team shielded their faces. The light lasted only seconds before it vanished, leaving behind complete silence. Emma's voice trembled. "Rick? What just happened?" Rick shook his head. "I don't know. But whatever's down there, it's awake now." The light faded slowly, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the earth itself. Everyone stood frozen, eyes wide, hearts pounding. For years they had dug through soil, wood, and rock in search of a chest of coins or a trace of ancient metal. But this was something no one had prepared for. Emma wiped the dirt from her gloves, her breathing uneven. "It's gone quiet," she whispered, staring down into the pit. Completely quiet. Dr. Spooner crouched beside her, scanning the surface once more. His instruments buzzed faintly, the display trembling as if uncertain of its own readings. "It's reacting. It knows we're here." Rick turned to his team. "Back away," he ordered. Slowly. They moved just as a sharp crack split the air, the ground breaking like a shell. A beam of brilliant blue light shot upward, flooding the site in an otherworldly glow. The team shielded their faces. The surrounding soil, inch by inch, the buried structure began to reveal itself. A smooth, circular plate, metallic but unlike any known alloy. As more of it was uncovered, faint patterns appeared along its edge. Geometric shapes, spirals, and a single symbol that looked like a cross made of intersecting lines. Emma studied it closely. "These markings, they're not decorative," she said. "They look like coordinates or a code." Dr. Spooner frowned. "Coordinates to where?" Rick stepped back, scanning the pit from above. "Maybe not where," he said quietly. "Maybe when." The words sent a shiver through everyone nearby. Suddenly, one of the crewmen called out, "Rick, you need to see this." He pointed to a small section of the plate where the dirt had fallen away. There, half buried, was a rectangular opening. Inside, something glimmered faintly, reflecting the beam of the flashlight. Rick's pulse quickened. "Get the stabilizers. We're lifting it." As they secured the harness and began to pull, the circular plate shifted with a low metallic groan. A cloud of mist rose from the pit, cold and thick, carrying a strange scent. Not decay, not earth, but something sharp, metallic, almost electric. And then beneath the plate, they saw it, a box. It was small enough to be carried by two men, but impossibly heavy-looking. Its surface was covered in the same strange markings, and a faint gold sheen glowed beneath the mud. Rick crouched beside it, brushing the top clean. His voice was barely a whisper. "This could be it. The treasure they've written about for 2 centuries. Emma glanced at the instruments. "It's still warm," she said. "That's not natural metal heat." Rick looked up at her. "Open it." Everyone stepped back as Emma took a tool and gently pressed against the edge. The lid didn't budge. She tried again, harder this time, until finally the seam cracked, releasing a soft hiss. A thin wisp of vapor rose into the air. Rick leaned closer and slowly lifted the lid. Inside lay something wrapped in layers of aged fabric, silk-like but strangely preserved. He pulled it back, revealing what looked like a book bound in metal plates, its cover embossed with the same spiral markings as the object below. Dr. Spooner's mouth fell open. "That's not just treasure," he said. "That's knowledge." Rick turned a page carefully. The script was unreadable. Long, curved lines that didn't match any known language. Symbols seemed to shimmer faintly on the surface, fading and reappearing like reflections in water. Emma gasped. "Rick, look! The writing moves when you tilt it!" He tilted it slightly under the light. The letters rippled, rearranging themselves into a different pattern. Suddenly, every piece of equipment on site began to flicker. The lights dimmed. The generators coughed and stuttered. Radios crackled with static. Dr. Spooner shouted over the noise. "Something's interfering with the electronics!" Then, just as quickly as it began, everything went dark. Only the faint blue glow from the buried object illuminated the scene. Rick's voice was steady, but low. "Nobody moves. Stay where you are." In that eerie blue light, the air felt charged, as if the entire island was holding its breath. Moments later, a deep rumble echoed from beneath the ground. The pit walls trembled, sending small rocks tumbling down. Emma stumbled back. "Rick, it's unstable!" she yelled. But before anyone could retreat, the light surged, brighter than before, forcing them to shield their eyes. A wave of air burst from the pit, knocking over equipment and scattering dust into the night. When it settled, they looked again. The metallic plate was gone. The book was still there, but the book inside had vanished. Rick stared in disbelief. "It's gone," he whispered. It disappeared. Emma frantically scanned the pit with her flashlight. No footprints, no fragments, nothing. It's like it was never here. Dr. Spooner's voice trembled. Or maybe it went back. Rick turned to him. "Back where?" He met Rick's eyes, his voice barely a whisper. "Where it came from." The dawn came slowly over Oak Island, painting the water with streaks of gray and gold. But the pit, the place that had glowed so fiercely the night before, now looked lifeless, almost untouched. The metallic plate was gone, the book was gone, and all that remained was a shallow hollow in the mud. The crew moved in silence. No one spoke. No one knew what to say. Cameras had captured flashes of the light, but not the object itself. The footage was scrambled, as if the air had bent the signal itself. Rick stood near the pit, hands in his pockets, staring into the emptiness. His brother approached quietly. "You didn't sleep," he said. Rick shook his head. "Could you? We found something the world's been searching for, and it vanished right in front of us." Before his brother could reply, a low hum filled the air, the sound of engines. 3 black vehicles rolled down the dirt road toward the site, their tires crushing the gravel beneath them. The crew turned, startled. Emma frowned. "Who's that? We didn't call anyone." The vehicles stopped, and men in dark uniforms stepped out. No insignias, no badges, just plain black gear and quiet movements. One of them, a calm man with gray hair and mirrored glasses, approached Rick. "Are you Mr. Lagina?" Rick nodded slowly. "Who's asking?" The man handed him a folded document, stamped with a seal Rick didn't recognize. "This site is now under federal protection," the man said flatly. "All excavation will cease immediately. No one enters or leaves without clearance." Rick's jaw tightened. "Federal protection? This is private property. You can't just—" But the man cut him off. "We can. And we are." Within minutes, the crew was ordered to shut down all equipment. Cameras were confiscated, computers disconnected, drones grounded. A temporary fence was erected around the dig site, and guards took up positions at every corner. Emma watched them work, disbelief in her eyes. "They were waiting," she whispered. "They knew." Dr. Spooner stood beside her, his face pale. "That's not a normal response," he said. "They came too fast. They must have been tracking the energy signal from last night." Rick confronted the officer again. "At least tell me what you think we found," he demanded. The man turned toward him, expression unreadable behind his mirrored glasses. "Mr. Lagina," he said calmly, "you didn't find anything. You hit an unstable pocket of mineral gas. It's been recorded. That's the official report." Rick stepped forward. "That's a lie." The man didn't flinch. "It's the truth that will be written. For your safety and for everyone else's." Then he leaned closer, lowering his voice. "And for your sake, don't go looking again. Some things on this island were buried for a reason." With that, he turned and walked away. For hours, the crew stood helpless as the site was sealed and guarded. The hum of the machinery that had once been filled with hope now sounded like the rhythm of loss. That night, the team gathered inside their trailer. The air was thick with tension. Emma sat at the table, staring at a small memory card in her hand, one she had managed to hide before the officers took the rest of the footage. "I have one video, just a few seconds, but it shows the light." Rick looked at her, then at the others. "Play it." She inserted the card and brought up the file on her laptop. The screen flickered, showing the pit bathed in blue light. For a moment, the glowing object was visible, not as metal, but as something almost fluid, shifting form, like liquid glass. Then, just before the image cut out, something else appeared. A silhouette reflected in the glow. Not human, not clear, but standing near the pit. Everyone in the room froze. Dr. Spooner whispered, "That's impossible. There was no one there." Rick leaned closer. The shape was tall, thin, with long arms that seemed to blend into the light itself. Then, the frame distorted and went black. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Emma said, "Whatever that was, it wasn't man-made." Rick sat back slowly, his mind racing. "Then Oak Island isn't about treasure anymore," he said quietly. "It's about something much older." The room fell silent again. Outside, the night wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the whisper of the sea, and something else. Dr. Spooner turned off the laptop and looked toward the window. "If they sealed the site, it's because they're afraid of what we might learn." Rick nodded, eyes still on the dark horizon. "Then maybe," he said, "we were never meant to find gold. Maybe we were meant to find this." The others watched him, uncertain. Emma whispered, "Do you think it's still there?" Rick turned slowly toward her. "It never left," he said. "It's just waiting." 2 nights later, Oak Island was quiet again. The government trucks had left, the guards were gone, and for the first time since the shutdown, the wind carried nothing but the sound of waves breaking against the shore. Rick stood at the edge of the clearing, a flashlight in hand. He'd waited for this moment, waited for the silence to return. Behind him, his brother and Emma followed, moving carefully through the shadows. They weren't supposed to be there, but they couldn't walk away, not after what they'd seen. "Are you sure about this?" Emma whispered. Rick nodded. "I have to be. If they covered it up, it means it's something they can't explain. We need to see it with our own eyes." They reached the pit. The area was fenced off now, but the locks had been carelessly fixed. Rick cut through the wire with a single snip. The gate swung open with a faint creak. The ground looked undisturbed, but Rick knew better. He crouched and ran his hand over the soil. It felt colder here, as if the earth itself was guarding its secret. He started digging by hand, slow and quiet. The others joined him. Within an hour, their shovels struck something hard. Metal again, but not the same smooth surface from before. This was rough, jagged, like old iron. Rick brushed the dirt away and uncovered a large ring bolted into the ground. "It's a hatch," he whispered. Emma helped clear the rest, revealing a circular iron door embedded deep in the soil. Around the edge were markings, symbols none of them recognized, curved lines and dots that looked almost like constellations. Dr. Spooner arrived then, having followed them secretly. He knelt beside the hatch, shining his light over the symbols. "This isn't miners' work. These are much older, possibly pre-Viking, maybe even older than that." Rick gripped the iron ring and pulled. The hatch resisted at first, but with a loud metallic groan, it lifted slightly, releasing a breath of stale, cold air. The smell of earth and salt filled the air. Emma flinched. "Something's down there," she said softly. Rick nodded. "Let's find out what." They lowered a rope into the darkness. Rick went first. The tunnel below was narrow but well built, reinforced with beams that had survived centuries underground. The deeper he went, the cooler the air became. Water dripped steadily from above, echoing like a heartbeat. When his boots touched the bottom, he lifted his flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, revealing a small stone chamber. Its walls were carved with the same strange symbols as the hatch. In the center stood a pedestal, smooth, black, and glistening, as though it were wet. "Come down," Rick called softly. The others joined him one by one,
their lights flickering against the damp walls. Emma pointed. "What is that?" Rick approached the pedestal. On top of it lay an object wrapped in something that looked like old leather.